Welcome in, everyone, to another special edition of AYS Sports. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. We are here with our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media at Service Hawk Digital Media Studios. Got a lot to talk about today. I did say last night in our show that we would break a lot more down from a baseball perspective. We'll talk a lot of football tonight. We'll probably have Carter Bryant on with us if you're rewatching the show later on in the day or even tomorrow. Carter will be joining us. But today we're going to talk a lot about LSU baseball and previewing this series with Oklahoma. Before we get to all that, like we mentioned, we were here at Service Hawk Digital Media. They soar above the competition with their expert marketing for HVAC, electrical, and generator pros. Go over to servicehawk.io today. I know that there's a little comment box in there that you could but Service Hawk, where they soar above the competition for all of those referrals, leads, and everything that you need. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Craig's Electrical and Generators, which has been the trusted name for generator installations and maintenance for years. And now they are bringing that same top-tier service for HVAC or for your AC maintenance. Craig's can now be both your generator and AC system running smoothly. So if you're never left in the heat or in the dark, don't wait to get your maintenance today. Call them at 504-290-0183. That's 290-0183 now, and experience the reliable service that Craig's is known for. So massive weekend for LSU baseball coming up this weekend, going to Norman, Oklahoma, and I want to spend some time talking about them because, listen, we went into the series versus Missouri like, look, man, they could swing the bat a little bit. They actually swung the bat a little bit against you and other teams. We went into the series versus Texas. We really broke that one down and talked about, their 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters, hole hitters, and where they can give you problems. The truth is that those 2 through 5, 2 through 6 hitters really exposed you. You went on the road the first time in SEC play this year. Now, the second time this season, you go on the road to the great state of Oklahoma. And, hold on. Sorry about that. And you find yourself going up against a team that is, number one, very athletic, a team that at the plate in the SEC, which I think a lot of people had questions about, Oklahoma coming into the SEC, they knew that they would be able to pitch and they knew they'd be good there. But the question was coming in and a team with Oklahoma that's been in the middle of the pack of the SEC, how would they do at the plate? And I'm sorry about that. You guys we're gonna have to do a lot of editing, but just bear with me. But they've been very good there. Trey Gambill is led the team for Oklahoma this year with a 377 batting average. He's hit 6 doubles. He's only hit a home run and got only 10 RBIs. But, guys, in the 24 games that he started this season, if he's going to be able to go this weekend will be a big question. But he's walked 24 times. He's slugging over 500. His OPS, on base percentage, is above 500. He's at 536. He's 9 for 9 on stolen bases. They have a lot of athleticism, not just with Trey, but with Kyle Branch and others. A lot of athleticism in the top of their lineup. They're not going to be a team that's going to hit with tons and tons of power. Now, they do have some guys like Jason Willits who will be a part of that. He's got 8 home runs on the year. Easton Carmichael has 6. They can run the ball out of the ballpark if you give them the opportunity. But this team hits for a very high average. This team is a team that if you give them the opportunities, they will single and double you to death over and over and over again. And you cannot allow this team free passes. When I look at Oklahoma, let's look at what they do when they get on the base pass. Gambill is 9 for 9, safely 9 for 9 on stolen base attempts. Branch, as an example, he's 10 for 10. Jackson is 8 for 8. Jason Walk is 9 of 14 on the season. Carmichael is 8 of 10 on the season. When they get on the base paths, they are going to run on you. So this weekend, when you go up against an offense, you go up against a team, and that's not even the only. They're not the only ones. Like their 6-hole hitter in Dawson Willis. I mean, he's got 15 attempts on the season. He stole 12 bases. They will. They are going to try to walk. They're going to try to get on base because they want to put pressure on you. This is how I would explain Oklahoma. It's a lot like what you saw 2 or 3 years ago, and even somewhat this year with Kentucky. They're Kentucky on steroids when it comes to athleticism. You got to have the ability to throw strikes. Now, on Thursday night, I have the utmost confidence with Cade Anderson, who's now in a normal days or week's rest, and Zach Cowan, that you 1,000% are going to be fine there and not allowing those free passes. You know, the bullpen, for what it's worth, gave up 5 walks this weekend. Now, 3 of them came from Case and Evans, and you didn't really notice it, but 2 only came from the other guys that we saw this weekend. The ability to throw strikes against an offense that wants to play some small ball, that wants to get on base, and wants to put so much pressure on you is going to be key. And here's another thing. I love Luis Hernandez. What he does at the plate. I love what he has done from a receiving standpoint behind the plate. The problem is I think that Luis, his one big struggle has been trying to throw guys out. Now, he doesn't have a bad arm. He just has such a long delivery. If you're getting a lot of guys on base, they can cause a lot of issues for you. I think they're going to really try to test Luis this weekend. That's why eliminating the free passes is going to be so massive. Another thing is the guys on the mound have to be very cautious and very aware to help Luis out. Some slide steps, long waits, run that clock down all the way to 0 if you got to sometimes, and then go. Now, they'll give them a pretty good idea. Go fast, go slow, do a lot of different things on the mound to control this running game from Oklahoma. Guys, just in their starting 9, nobody has less than 4 attempts of stolen bases. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but 9, 10, 8, 10, 14, 6, 7, 15 attempts. That's a lot of attempts. This team is going to go up there and try to walk. Now, when you have guys like Sam Christensen, you have Gambill, you have Branch, looking at what they do offensively, you have Gambill has got 24 walks in the season. Sam Christensen, guys, has walked 33 times this year. Now, he's only hitting 286. But with that, he is going to take a lot of pitches. Throwing strikes and strikes in this weekend for LSU versus Oklahoma is more to premium than it probably of any weekend. Again, I can't stress this enough. There's probably not going to be a weekend where allowing free passes, okay, is going to cost you more than this one. Here's the thing about Oklahoma as well. Even though they've walked a lot, even though they try to get on base, when I look at them, Willis has also struck out 33. They struck out 33 times. Christensen has struck out 25 times. Taki has struck out 27 times. Carmichael has struck out 24 times. Even though they walk a lot, they also will strike out a lot. The thing is in the series like Alabama last weekend, or name the series that they faced off against somebody, their biggest strength has also in moments turned to their biggest weakness because they're going to sit there and they're going to make you throw pitches. Thursday night, I think that you have the advantage from your defense and your pitching versus their offense. But man, if you allow them to really push and you allow them to put massive amounts of pressure on you, it could be very deadly. Now, here's another thing. I am going to be very interested to see what Jay does at third base this weekend. I understand and am with Tanner Reeves being there because what he does with his bat, still hitting around or above right at 400. The kid's been very good. I still think that Michael Braswell will play a massive role for you this weekend, especially defensively. Brazzy, for what it's worth, a year ago at short, really, really struggled. I think at third base, he's found a really good home. He's been really solid defensively. But for me, it's going to be very interesting to see how Jay rolls this out there. I don't think that Jay, for what it's worth, will just put Brazzy out there just for defense, because you're somewhat doing that with Stanfield in some aspects, even though Stanfield's really hitting the ball hard. I'm very interested to see what he does there with the team that's going to want to bunt a lot on you too. Oklahoma's a very solid team, man. As a team, they're hitting 298 on the season. They've walked 155 times already this year. Guys, we're halfway through the season. They're on pace for 300 walks on the year. Now, they're on pace for over 400 strikeouts on the season, so it kind of evens itself out. But what they do, guys, they have 88 stolen base attempts. They're probably, by the end of next weekend, going to be around 100. That is insanity. So you got to be defensively, you got to be on point. Your middle infield has got to be very solid this weekend and not allowing, if Luis has a bad throw or an off-time throw, just knock the ball down. Make sure that you're not advancing them to the next base. During the weekend versus Alabama, I remember, I think it was game 2, that they had runners on second and third, and they try to continue to bunt just to get a run. Their goal offensively, get on base, get a run every inning, and that's how they're going to beat you. Again, they can walk into some power. Willits has 8 bombs. Walk has 5 bombs. Carmichael has 6. They got some power. When they've gotten SEC play, it's not really been their strength, but it's definitely something that we need to keep our eyes on. You offensively, I think that this could be, for what it's worth, arguably one of the best starting rotations that you'll see. Now, Alabama really did take it to Oklahoma this weekend, but they took it to Oklahoma once they got to the bullpen. This coaching staff for Oklahoma, they have been very well known around college baseball, their head coach included, for being some of the best developers of pitching, especially left-handed pitching in the country. You know, I was talking to a scout the other day. You know, Clayton Kershaw used to go to Oklahoma during the offseason and train with Oklahoma for just everything that he does from a pitching standpoint, to give you an idea. But the Witherspoon brothers are going to be very interesting to see how you attack them. I do think that Kyson and Malachi are 2 of the best pitchers in the SEC, but Kyson might be one of the best aces, if not the best pitcher in the entire SEC. In 7 starts this year, he's got a 5-1 record, a .95 whip. Guys, that's insane. In 39 innings pitched, he's got 64 strikeouts in 39 innings. That is fantastic. Only allowing 10 walks and 10 earned runs. Opponents are batting 189 against him. You got to ramp that number up, his pitch count up early. Might be one of the top 20, 25 guys selected when he goes out into the draft. But Kyson and Witherspoon has been fantastic. This past weekend, Malachi, the other Witherspoon brother, who also has 7 starts, he's 2-2 on the year. He's got 5.74 ERA. He's kind of gotten rocked a little bit. Opponents are hitting right at 300 against him. They are really good. You'll face a really strong challenge Thursday. The thing is that when I look at them as a staff, from outside of Kyson Witherspoon, the starters have somewhat struggled. Now, you might remember Cam Johnson, the big lefty from last year. He was starting on Sundays, but he's kind of been moved out of that role. But guys, excuse me, their top arms in their bullpen are really good. Dylan Crooks has been absolutely electric. In 13 appearances, he's got 1.42 ERA. He's had 19 innings pitched. He struck out 17 guys in 19 innings. Not a lot of strikeouts. So what does that mean? Opponents are putting the ball in play, but they're making very, very weak contact. He's allowing a 1.91 batting average against. Teams have not been able to hit against him. Their top 2 arms coming out of their bullpen this weekend are a lot like yours. They might not be overpowering from a strikeout perspective, even though Casey Evans can do that if he needs to, and certainly has been doing that. But Zach Kalman, I mean, he's not been massive when it comes to strikeouts, but he gets a lot of weak contact. But when I look at Dylan Crooks and when I look at Reed Hensley, guys, both of those guys have a 1.5 ERA or below. They're not allowing teams to get really good contact and barreling up the baseball. Both of them, 1.91 batting average against, and Hensley, who's probably their best arm coming out of the pen, who will dominate you if you allow him to get in a groove. He's got a 1.13 or 0.113 batting average against. Opponents have not been able to hit him. Bo Sampson has been really good. Now, he's given up some runs. Walks have been somewhat of an issue. But, look, they got two really good arms. They don't walk a lot of people. You know, Cam Johnson a couple of weeks ago hit a batter and walked a batter and then got pulled. Their coaching staff is going to force them to throw strikes and be very competitive on every pitch. Overall, even more than Texas, I do think from a talent standpoint, this is the best overall staff that you've seen. And that's a lot to be said when you look at what Texas did and how in moments they were able to shut you down. This is a very challenging weekend going on the road to Norman. You know, there's going to be a lot of bad weather this weekend. You got to be locked in and focused and ready to go. I would, if you're asking me, I would believe that LSU should and could take 2 out of 3 games going into Norman. This is a massive weekend for you because there's a lot of big matchups in the SEC this weekend, like Georgia goes to Texas. A&M, who's been very massively struggling, goes to Tennessee. This could be somewhat of a separation weekend for you if you can take 2 of 3 and be in the driver's seat. Guys, how about this? You're 7-2 in conference. You are 10 SEC wins away from hosting a regional. 10. If LSU gets to that 17-13 number, there's a very strong chance that they're going to host. Now, you want to be above that, right? Like you want to be above that 17 number. You want to get to 18, 19, 20. And I understand that. But LSU gets that 17 number, you're very much going to be in the mix. Here's another thing that I want to make people very much aware. You're 3 games away from guaranteeing that this team will be in the postseason. 3. Now, that's not the standard of LSU baseball, and I know, and you know, and your grandmama knows. Everybody knows that is not the standard that you live up to. Your goal is not to just to make it to the postseason every year. Your goal is to host a regional, host a supers, and get to Omaha. I'm with you there. But just to put into perspective what this weekend could do for you and the separation that it feels like every weekend I've said this, but every weekend starts separating. You know, A&M goes to Tennessee. Guys, A&M could be damn near close to being eliminated from postseason play because they got Tennessee, they got you, they got so many teams that they got to face off against. So, look, I think it's one of the biggest series that you'll have, and Oklahoma is not a common opponent that you've seen. I mean, they did last night against Texas Tech. They did win against Texas Tech last night. In a really good midweek. I watched a lot of them this weekend. You know, let's go to them this past weekend from their scheduling. You know, they beat in game 2. They come back and storm back and beat Alabama. Alabama took game 1. They won 6-5 against the number 12 team in the country. And then they lost 8-6 on Sunday. A lot of tough challenges were presented to them going to Tuscaloosa. But, guys, they're a really good ball club. They're a middle-of-the-pack ball club maybe in the SEC. But I think they're a really good team. And I could see this team not only just making the postseason but getting into a regional. I don't know if they could host. But I could see this team winning at any regional that you put them up against because of what the amount of pressure they put on you. Again, old school Kentucky in some instances. Now, I don't think that they are as polished as Kentucky was a couple of years ago when you faced off against them. But my goodness gracious, great balls of fire, as the great song goes. If you do not If you do not come in here and play your A game, they'll clip you now. They'll clip you. So be very, very interesting. Couple of notes I want to bring here too. I'm looking at conference. And what these guys have done in the SEC while in conference. Offensively, guys, they've struggled in some regards. You know, Willis, Carmichael, and Branch are all hitting above 400. Trey Gamble, again, let's see what goes on with this health thing. He's only started 8 of the 10 games in conference so far. We'll see. We'll see. They've struggled somewhat. The thing that's interesting to me is that their top hitters in conference, guys, they only have 9 home runs. I know that, look, you've played 9 games, so it's a home run a game, but it's just not a lot of power. When I look at doubles, guys, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 doubles on the year in conference playing 9 games. That's not a lot. So there has been some talk from the Oklahoma side, like, hey, look, we'll play small ball. We'll put a lot of pressure on you. But, I mean, from a power aspect, they just don't scare me at all. But they will if you allow them to. Pitching-wise in the SEC, there's been a lot of discussion about, well, they're a really good staff, but when they've gotten into the SEC, like Malachi Witherspoon has an 8.10 ERA. That'll be a guy that you'll see on game 3. Even Kyson Witherspoon, the ace, or what people believe is the ace in the SEC, the lead ace, 3.94 ERA, 1-1 in his 3 starts. He's got 24 strikeouts, but man, he's given up of the 14 earned runs he's given up this year. 7 of them have come in SEC play. So overall, going to be a very interesting weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. Weather will probably play a major factor into this, but I would just say this. Control what you can control, and LSU will take the series. Now, I mentioned this a little bit last night, but now that I'm feeling a little bit better, I want to mention this and really throw this in there again right now. Guys, the top of your lineup and where I think that you give them issues, the top of your lineup, I really think could take it to Oklahoma this weekend. Bear Jones is hitting above 400 halfway through the season, double-digit home runs. Danny Dickinson, guys, in his last 4 games has 8 RBIs. 8 in the last 4 games for Danny Dickinson. He's really come on strong. He's really kind of been on a heater here the last 4 games. He's on an 8-game hitting streak. But from an outright production standpoint, Danny has been doing very well. Got you a big home run this past weekend versus Mississippi State. And look, I mean, he's been red hot. Derek Curry moments. I mean, he's been on base every single game, and you love that. I mean, he's just look, he's it's funny. It's either like going to be really good or he's taking really good bats or he gets confused on some things. But your entire front of your lineup's been really good. You do have a common opponent. The last thing before we get out of here, you do have a common opponent that you've both faced. Oklahoma led off, or the second weekend, I should say. They led off with South Carolina and took 2 or 3 from South Carolina. Almost lost that series, by the way. But they did face Mississippi State. They lost game 1 against Mississippi State. So, look, you beat Pico Khan 2-1 in that Friday game. The exact opposite happened for Oklahoma when they went up against Mississippi State. Pico Khan was fantastic. You know, he had 6 innings pitched. He only allowed 2 hits. So kind of how they lost game 2 against you. It was kind of funny that the same score was reversed and Mississippi State did beat Oklahoma. In game 2, Oklahoma pitching got absolutely rocked. Now, they were able to hit back and play a lot of small ball against Mississippi State, but they won 13-11 in that game. Guys, if Mississippi State at the plate can really take it to Oklahoma, I think that you can too. Mississippi State also lost in game 3, 7-3 against Oklahoma. Late in that game, bats came alive. They put a lot of pressure on Mississippi State, and they could not hang on there. So that is the preview for Oklahoma. We'll talk a little bit more about them tonight. But just to give an overall preview, for me, the 3 key points. You got to throw strikes when you're on the mound. You got to control their running game, because if they get on base, all they're going to do is run. If you throw strikes and you're consistent around the plate, you're going to be fine. If you allow them free passes, they're going to beat you, and they're going to take the series. Secondly, I do think that they're okay at the plate. God, I really just believe that you can overpower them in so many aspects. So I'm going to take LSU to win 2 or 3 this weekend. I feel confident that you can. If you get in a place where you're 9-3 in the conference, I should look this up. Actually, we're going to do this. LSU baseball schedule. If you can come out of this weekend being 9-3 in the conference, you got a lot of tough games ahead of you. But you take 2 or 3 this weekend. You got at Auburn, tough place to play. We lost there in 23. They're a very beatable team. Okay. So you got Alabama, then you have Tennessee, then you have Texas A&M, then you have Arkansas, then you have South Carolina. Guys, we're starting to wrap up a little bit here. Like I feel confident that you could take that A&M series. I still feel confident that you can beat Alabama in that Alabama series. But you're going to start hitting your little tougher stretch here, and against a team that you need to win 2 or 3 off. These next 2 weekends, you need to be at minimum 4-2 on these weekends, and I think you can do it. And if you do that, guys, you're going to be hosting a regional in Baton Rouge. All right. This show is brought to you by our good friends over at Craig's Electrical and Generator Pros. Again, call them today at 504-290-0183. That's 504-290-0183 today to get that quality experience. We are here at ServiceHawk Digital Media, ServiceHawk Digital Studios. I'm Blake Ruffino. This is AYS Sports. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll see y'all again tonight. Y'all have a good one. Peace.